Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2018 University of Maryland University College Veterans Day ceremony. Would you please rise for the presentation of colors by the University of Maryland College Park Army ROTC Color Guard. Please remain standing for the national anthem performed by UMUC student and Pillars of Strength Scholarship recipient Justina Kneffler.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our Master of Ceremonies, Keith Hawk, University of Maryland University College, Associate Vice President for Veterans Initiatives.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please be seated. Good afternoon. We are pleased you are joining us at today's ceremony, where we will honor the guardians of freedom, America's veterans, and recognize the recipient of the UMUC General John W. Vesey Jr. Student Veteran of the Year. On behalf of the host of today's event, University of Maryland University College President Javier Miyares, I thank all of you for joining us to celebrate this special event, whether here in person or through Connecting Vets online coverage around the world. I would like to recognize several distinguished guests who are with us today. Our keynote speaker, retired U.S. Army General Carter Ham, President and Chief Executive Officer, Association of the United States Army. University System of Maryland Regent Deanna Johnson. The Honorable Pamela Queen of the Maryland House of Delegates. Secretary of the Maryland Higher Education Commission, Dr. James Fielder. And retired Major General Lloyd Milo Miles, Senior Vice President, Global Military Operations, UMUC. And we offer a very special welcome to all of our veterans, currently serving military, and their family members. Would those of you here in the audience, veterans, currently serving military, spouses, and children, please stand. Thank you. And thank you all for your service. Veterans Day 2018 marks the 100th anniversary of the end of the First World War and the establishment of November 11th as Armistice Day, a day to commemorate the war to end all wars and to honor veterans that served in it. Sadly, though, the war to end all wars did not. And just 23 years later, the United States once again engaged in an even larger, truly global struggle against tyranny and evil. In 1954, President Dwight Eisenhower signed legislation to officially change Armistice Day to Veterans Day. That change was made to establish a day to pay tribute to all veterans that served, whether in peacetime or in wartime, and to thank them for their service. However, setting aside a single day to honor and thank veterans for their service, while vitally important to us as a nation, simply is not enough. It is what we do in those other 364 days of the year, beyond a simple thanks for your service, or a yellow ribbon magnet affixed to the back of one's car, that is even more important. In the waning days of America's bloodiest conflict, the Civil War, President Lincoln gave his second inaugural address only 1 month prior to his assassination. In that address, he closed, in part, with these words: "Let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan." In the 100 years since establishing a holiday to honor and thank those who have served our nation, UMUC has been here for more than 70 of those years, serving through education those who have worn the uniform of our nation or continue to do so. Our university traces its very founding to serving veterans returning from the Second World War. And since then, we have gone wherever it is they need us to go: Europe, Japan, Korea, Vietnam, Kosovo, the Persian Gulf region, and Afghanistan. President Miyares has often said at UMUC, serving military and veteran students is in our DNA. But to many of us, myself included, this is much more than a slogan. It is an incontrovertible fact based on 70 years, more than 70 years of boots on the ground experience. So, as we commemorate this day, we do so in a ballroom that is named for our university's most distinguished alumnus, General John W. Vesey Jr., a man who dedicated his entire adult life to serving his nation in war and in peace, climbing in rank from private to 4-star general. A man who rose to the highest military office in the U.S. Armed Forces, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and spent much of his post-military life caring through education for those who have borne the battle. With that example in mind, as we gather today to honor and thank our more than 40,000 UMUC veterans and military students for their service, let us all commit beyond this day to do what we can for all those service members, veterans, and their family members who have borne the battle.
When you look at Veterans Day, you're looking at the ultimate sacrifice. But it's not just for those that have fallen, it's for those that are living. We want to say thank you.
Since the end of World War I in 1918, we've been observing Veterans Day. Honoring the military is something UMUC's been doing too for the past 70 years by providing a college education to those who choose to serve.
The thing about the students that make up this demographic at UMUC is that they're not afraid to work. I am these guys, I am them, they are me, we are the same. Most of the folks that present in class are, like me, are sled pullers. And that means you get dirty and sweaty and bloody.
They understand the importance of sacrifice. They also are great team members. They work very well in groups. They're very, very focused. There's also a maturity that these students bring to the classroom. And then also their ability to deal with challenges and obstacles.
They were so motivated. They were so eager to get an education. They still had their long shifts to serve, and people would stand up throughout these 3-hour classes so that they didn't just fall asleep right away. It was inspiring to teach them because of how much they wanted to learn.
So all day they're dealing with roadside bombs and the Taliban. And then a couple nights a week they're in class. And they liked it, we liked it very much.
I would say almost always they came in uniform, and very common to come in with their weapon, which they might have been on patrol, they might have been doing this or doing that. But they were very keen.
We'd occasionally have a really serious incidents where people start walking around with gas masks and full armor. And sometimes you even see your students coming to class like that.
We were in the war zones a lot of the time, and they really appreciated us as teachers, and we as faculty appreciated them as being hardworking students. And I had some of the best students I've ever had in this program.
They're going to bring discipline. They're going to be inquisitive. Their experiences are going to be different, and they're going to share those openly.
They're special, and they're special because they have done those things that require a tremendous commitment.
The sacrifices that they make every day and the sacrifices that their family makes deserve pausing and really saying thank you to those individuals. And so they protect the nation, and so they're more than worthy of being recognized and honored.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to introduce UMUC's Senior Vice President of Global Military Operations, retired U.S. Army Major General Lloyd Milo Miles.
Wow. If that video doesn't make you feel inspired about our history and what we do, then you're probably serving in the wrong place. Good afternoon and welcome to this special event. Before I begin my informal remarks, I would like to say thank you to a few folks that are gathered here in the room. First, to President Miyares for hosting this event, and sir, for your support for veterans initiatives at this university, which truly is at the forefront in higher education. To General Ham, sir, we know how busy your dance card is and how full it gets, so it really is humbling that you took some time to attend this event with us. To Keith Hawk and Kelly Wilmoth and the rest of the stateside military operations team, and also to Kat Bug and Mike Friedman and the communications department, thank you for putting on a professional event. This is top-notch, just like all the other events that you do, so thank you very much. And finally, to the folks from Connecting Vets, thank you for being wonderful partners, but more importantly, thank you for broadcasting this event to veterans that may be scattered around the globe today. So thank you very much. You know, we are very fortunate as a people to still have among us veterans who served in the Second World War and fought in those decisive battles, and veterans who slogged through the frozen hills of Korea and trudged through the humid jungles of Vietnam, and served on the lonely frontier during the many decades of the Cold War, and more recent veterans who served in places like Panama and Grenada, Somalia, Bosnia and Kosovo, Iraq, and Afghanistan. The one concept that unites them all, regardless of generation, is a belief in something greater than themselves, and a belief in those words by that American patriot and veteran, Thomas Paine, who said during the Revolutionary War, "If there must be trouble, let it be during my day, so that my children may live in peace. If there must be trouble, let it be during my day, so that my children may live in peace." When I think of the old veterans, I often think of my father, Command Sergeant Major Miles, who retired after 32 years of military service. My father didn't want to go into the military, but he was drafted into the Army, just like a lot of other young men of his generation, right at the tail end of the Second World War. He would be sent to Japan during occupation duty, and that's where he met my mother. He'd served there for a few years, and then he was sent to the Canal Zone in Panama. And after serving there for a few years, the Korean War broke out, and he was sent from Panama to fight in Korea. He would be wounded in Korea, and by the time he fully recovered from that war, or from his injuries in that war, he had almost 10 years of military service. So now he had a decision to make. Should he go ahead and get on out, or spend another 10 years in the military and take advantage of the retirement benefits at 20 years? Well, a funny thing happened to my father along the way, and he kind of liked the military life, so he decided that he would stay. But at the 20-year mark, that's when Vietnam was just now getting off the ground. So he had another decision to make. He was now a senior non-commissioned officer, and he felt an obligation towards his troops. So he decided that he would stay. He figured the war would be short. He'd come back and then go ahead and get on out. But as most of you know, the war wasn't short. And 3 tours and 10 years later, including being wounded in his second tour, my father's military service would come to an end. You know, as a kid, I used to love hearing the stories that my father would tell my mother when he would come back from work. And inevitably, the stories would always revolve back around to what some second lieutenant, in his words, what some dumb second lieutenant had done that day. And it was a constant, you know, some dumb second lieutenant this or that. Now, as a kid, I didn't know anything about rank, but I just figured that second lieutenants had to be the very lowest rank in the military, who were always screwing up, and I sure didn't want to be one of them someday. In fact, my father was often fond of saying that the 3 things he hated most while serving in the military was cold coffee, wet toilet paper, and second lieutenants. It was only many years later that I realized that one day I was going to be one of those dumb second lieutenants when I graduated from the military academy. While I was a cadet at West Point, my father retired, and he used to tell his drinking buddies down at the VFW that the reason why he got out of the military is so that he didn't have to salute his second lieutenant's son when I graduated from West Point. That's my dad. You know, the truth of the matter was, obviously, his service years was over. Now, at West Point, we have a very beautiful tradition, and every graduating cadet carries a silver dollar coin in their pocket. And the tradition has it that on graduation day, which is the same day that we are commissioned as new lieutenants, that the very first enlisted soldier who comes up to you in uniform and renders you a salute, you present that person with the silver dollar coin. Well, for me, the very first person in uniform to salute me was my father, retired Command Sergeant Major Miles. He would go on to say that it was probably one of his, well, it was probably the proudest day of his life. And I think it was for me, too. You know, a couple of years ago, my father's health started to deteriorate pretty quickly, like a lot of those soldiers of his generation. He would spend a lot of time in and out of emergency rooms, and his last time at an emergency room, the doctors figured they wouldn't send him home, but they were going to send him to a rehabilitation hospital until he could gain enough strength to be on his own. We went and visited him that Christmas and spent every day that we could with him at the hospital. It's pretty sad to see this once proud and strong soldier, now weighing less than 100 pounds, having to be lifted from his bed to go to the bathroom, or being lifted by an orderly to be placed in a wheelchair. But his mind was still sharp, and he would spend that time that we had with them telling us war stories, which is what old soldiers do, every day while we were there. And my father was always fond of referring to me by my rank whenever he wanted to give me fatherly advice, regardless of of whatever that rank was at the time. So it would sound something like, as lieutenant, I wouldn't recommend doing that, or, Captain, I think you should choose a different course of action. Or the last time I saw him, General, you look a lot like your father. And that was about as much of a compliment as I probably was going to get. But those are the memories that I had. We left Colorado the day after Christmas, and we flew back here because we wanted to spend the rest of the Christmas holidays with my wife's family. And the day after we left, my father was found unresponsive. They took him to a hospital, but he was surrounded by family when he passed away. My family and I, then a couple days later, we got back on a plane, obviously, and headed back out to Colorado to attend the funeral. And the active duty military out there in Colorado really stepped up. Fort Carson, Colorado provided a full military funeral detail, complete with bugler and pallbearers and our rifle squad to do the 21-gun salute. And they allowed me the honor of serving as the distinguished official. And that was really a very moving opportunity for me. After taps was played and the flag was folded, the officer renders the final salute. And so for me to be able to render the final salute to the soldier who rendered the first salute to me is something that I'll remember for the rest of my days. I can't tell you how much that meant to me to be able to do that. And I've always kept that silver dollar coin with me, not only during that service, but it sits on my nightstand today. In closing, I'd like to say just a word to the veterans in the audience and those that may be watching from around the world. You have really given, in many cases, the best years of your life. But all of you, I would say that regardless of what you're doing now, you will always be able to say that once upon a time you gave yourself in a cause that was greater than yourself. That you have known the great joys and the great sorrows, and you've made each other strong, like iron sharpens iron. And when your country needed you, you stepped up to the plate and stood in the storm. So from one warrior to another, thank you for wearing the uniform of your nation, and thank you for being loyal to one another. Thank you.
Thank you, General Miles. It is now my distinct honor to introduce the president of University of Maryland University College. He is a champion for all of our military and veterans initiatives, and his commitment to the success of these students and their families is unwavering. It is truly a pleasure and honor to work with him. Please join me in welcoming UMUC President Javier Miyares.
Thank you, Keith, for that kind introduction, and thank you, Milo, for your words. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us in person here in Maryland or online from around the world. As Keith noted earlier, it is especially fitting that we should host today's ceremony in the General John W. Vesey Jr. Ballroom. General Vesey, among his many accomplishments, was a 1963 graduate of this university, and he was the first chair of our Board of Visitors. As you know, UMUC was founded in large part to serve the needs of American GIs returning from the Second World War, and that mission continues to unite and guide us today. We are deeply proud that more than half of our current students are veterans, reservists, active duty service members, or their dependents. General Vesey's commitment to the women and men who wear the uniform of our country stands as a constant reminder of the importance of our mission, of the power of education to change lives, and as an inspiration to all who aspire to lead with integrity, courage, and grace. Today, we also commemorate the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I, and note with humble gratitude the enormous sacrifice that freedom entails. Today and every day, we say thank you to our students, alumni, faculty, and staff who have served, and we honor all of our nation's veterans. We are pleased and proud to welcome as our keynote speaker today one of our country's most distinguished veterans. General Carter F. Ham is a true hero, and his story is uniquely American. A senior leader who rose from the rank of private to 4-star general in the United States Army, he served first as an enlisted infantryman in the 82nd Airborne Division before attending John Carroll University in Cleveland, Ohio. He has led at every level, from platoon to geographic combatant command, and his service has taken him to Italy, Germany, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Macedonia, Qatar, Iraq, and unique among Army leaders to more than 40 African countries. He commanded the 1st Infantry Division, the legendary Big Red One, before assuming duties as Director of Operations on the Joint Staff at the Pentagon, where he oversaw all global operations. His first 4-star command was as Commanding General, U.S. Army Europe, and in 2011, he became the 2nd commander of the U.S. African Command. He retired from active duty in June 2013 after nearly 38 years of service, and he currently serves as President and CEO of the Association of the United States Army. General Ham, will you please join me at the podium? The President's Medal is the highest honor that I, as President of University of Maryland University College, can grant for distinguished service, and you are a most worthy recipient. I know I speak for everyone when I say that we are humbled by your sacrifice, honored by your presence, and we look forward to what I am sure will be an inspiring message for today's historic ceremony. And so, in recognition of your decades of service to our nation, your exemplary record of leadership, your courage and honor in combat, and above all, for your dedication to the men and women who serve or have served in the United States Armed Forces, including thousands of students, alumni, faculty, and staff of UMGC, it is my distinct honor to bestow upon you General Carter F. Ham, the University of Maryland University College President's Medal.
Wow. If my high school teacher could see me now. I'm honored and humbled to be here, and certainly quite humbled to receive the President's Award. Thank you. President Miyares, thank you not only for this day and for this award, but thank you for being a lifelong leader and a continuing supporter of America's service members, veterans, and their families. I think all who know President Miyares know that we would be hard-pressed to find any individual whose selfless service matches that of your president. Thank you, sir. I'm also humbled to be here today with General Milo Miles. When I was invited to speak here today, I was reminded of what was said about General Miles on the occasion of his retirement from the United States Army. And said at that ceremony about him, "You, sir, are the benchmark of what an American officer can and should be." I know from my personal experience that to be exactly correct. Thank you. Gunnery Sergeant Cervera, congratulations to you not only for your selection as the General John Vesey Award recipient, but also our thanks as a representative of all those who continue to serve our nation today and your continued commitment to the Marine Corps and to our nation. And albeit 2 days late, happy 243rd birthday to the United States Marine Corps, though I would remind you, the nation's second oldest service. And a special shout out to two former colleagues, Colonel Cheryl Harris and Keith Hawk. Thank you both for all that you have done. Your invitation to join you today brought back many, many memories of some good days and frankly of some not so good days. All those in uniform and those who have served understand that sentiment exactly. As Colonel Hawk reminded us, 100 years ago, the guns fell silent on the Western Front as the war to end all wars came to its conclusion. But sadly, as we know, war did not end at the 11th hour, the 11th day of the 11th month. But the end of World War I did bring the dawn of a new era, an era which saw America's rise to global leadership diplomatically, economically, and militarily. As Americans pause this year to celebrate Veterans Day, the centennial of the armistice that ended World War I, it is also appropriate to reflect on some of the lessons that may be drawn from that transformative experience. It is important to look back, to remember, to honor those who have served wearing the cloth of our country. Just recently, I was privileged to attend the grand opening of the National Veterans Memorial and Museum, opened in Columbus, Ohio, a beautiful and fitting tribute to today's 20 million veterans, but also to the many tens of millions who have served since the birth of our nation. It is not exaggeration to say that we owe everything to our veterans, for without them, without their service and sacrifice, without the families who stood by them through hard times and mourned the loss of so many, America would not be as we know it to be, the land of the free. This notion of service, this idea of an obligation to serve the nation, is not a new one. Indeed, it is found at the very birth of our country. George Washington wrote in a letter to Alexander Hamilton, he said, "It may be laid down as a primary position and the basis of our system that every citizen who enjoys the protection of a free government owes not only a proportion of his property, but even of his personal services to the defense of it." Washington even proposed that every citizen, with a few legal and official exceptions, from 18 to 50 years of age, should be born on the rolls of the militia. The point is that service to the nation has been a guiding principle since even before there was a United States of America. Our Army, our Marine Corps, our Navy were each established by the Continental Congress in 1775, before the very founding of our nation. The Coast Guard followed suit in 1790, with apologies to the Air Force, which didn't come along until 1947. Not even the Founding Fathers were sufficiently far-sighted to envision the air and space component of America's military forces. But over the succeeding generations, men, and over time, increasingly women, answered that call to duty. One could make a compelling case that the history of America's armed forces is the history of the country itself. Following the Revolution, Americans engaged in battles, skirmishes, wars, small and large, at home and abroad, reinforcing independence in the War of 1812, preventing the fragmentation of the nation in a bitter civil war, emerging on the global stage in World War I, leading the free world in World War II, standing against oppression throughout the long Cold War, which occasionally, as in Korea, flamed all too hot. Vietnam tested the nation, yet women and men answered the call. They did their duty. Grenada, Panama, Desert Storm, and still today, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, and myriad conflicts around the globe. We didn't always get it right, but in the words of Sir Winston Churchill, success is not final and failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. More recently, President Ronald Reagan said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction." We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on to them to do the same. The service members and veterans in this room and those watching online and the families who love them understand that sentiment. Like generations before, they answered the call to serve. As you heard, I was a soldier for a long time. I lived through numerous Army recruiting ads and campaigns. Some of them were very good and some of them were not. Join the people who've joined the Army. The Army wants to join you. That was a little weird. Be all you can be. Army strong. Join the team that makes a difference. But the one that remains my favorite is the one that I think best captures the essence of service. And while it was an Army ad slogan, it truly reaches across the services. It says simply, when we were needed, we were there. When we were needed, we were there. In good times and bad, in rare peacetime and in war, no matter your politics, no matter your beliefs, when you were needed, you were there. That is the history of our nation. It is the legacy of those who have served and the reason we honor those serving together today. When you were needed, you were there. But to be honest, to me, it's insufficient to look back, to recall our history, to celebrate lives well lived, some cut far too short. This centennial offers us an opportunity to also to look forward. As the end of the First World War ushered in an American century, what does the future hold for our country in the century ahead? When, in 1954, President Eisenhower proclaimed the first Veterans Day, he stated in that proclamation, "On that day, let us solemnly remember the sacrifices of all those who fought so valiantly on the seas, in the air, and on foreign shores to preserve our heritage of freedom. And let us reconsecrate ourselves to the task of promoting and enduring peace, so that all their efforts shall not have been in vain." I think it's fair now in 2018, as we look back on President Eisenhower's proclamation, to ask ourselves, how well have we fulfilled Eisenhower's challenge? Have we each, to the best of our ability, been worthy of the gift that all of our veterans have bequeathed to us? Have we capitalized on their service in ways that have made our nation stronger? Have we truly, earnestly embraced the hard-fought freedoms for which generations of American veterans have sacrificed? Are we worthy inheritors of this incredible legacy all American veterans have built? So to me, on this Veterans Day 2018, this centennial of the 1918 Armistice for which this day was initially set aside, it is not sufficient for us to remember, to honor, to praise those who have served. This day also charges us to look ahead. What will I do to support those still serving? What is my role in helping to build the next generation of Americans who will step forward one day, just as those ROTC cadets have done, just as so many in this room have done, to raise their right hands and swear an oath to defend us all, to bear true faith and allegiance, not to a king or to a queen, not even to a president, not to an army, a navy, an air force, a Marine Corps, or a Coast Guard. Unique among the nations of the world, American service members swear to bear true faith and allegiance to an idea, a simple idea. One our founders called simply a self-evident truth, that all men are created equal. An idea so powerful that it is, when necessary, worth fighting for. An idea, a set of ideas encapsulated in our Constitution. The Constitution, that document which is what binds all service members and veterans together in common purpose. It is the very foundation of service beyond self. It is that call to selfless service that we honor this day. Irrespective of when they served, no matter in which branch of service, whether they served at home or abroad, in peace or in war, it doesn't matter if active duty, National Guard, or Reserve, whether they served for a short period or for a long career. Today is their day. It is America's Day. Veterans Day 2018, America's Day. We remember together. We honor together those who have served. We commit ourselves together to support those still serving and together to encourage those called to service in the future. It is America's Veterans Day. It is a good day to remember how truly blessed we are to be Americans. So on this Veterans Day, I humbly ask before you that may God bless you. May He extend His blessings to all veterans and their families now and forever. And may God bless the United States of America. Thank you very, very much for allowing me to join you.
Thank you, General Ham, for your remarks and for joining us here today on behalf of all service members, but especially the United States Army. Another important facet of serving our nation's military and veterans is recognizing the truly exceptional achievers among us, those military and veteran students who best represent the legacy of our most distinguished alumnus, General John W. Vesey Jr., for whom this ballroom is named. And this year's recipient personifies the qualities demonstrated by General Vesey throughout his life. Gunnery Sergeant Kenny Saavedra enlisted in the Marine Corps in December 2004. He's a Parris Island Marine, not a San Diego Marine, and those of you who have been there understand the difference. And for his performance in boot camp, he earned a meritorious promotion to Private First Class. Over the course of his career, Kenny has served through either assignments or deployments at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, Marine Corps Air Station Yuma, Arizona, Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii, Iraq, Korea, Thailand, the Philippines, Japan, and Okinawa, where he is currently stationed. He's married, and he and his wife, Carmen, have one son, Justin. In addition to spending time with family and on his military duties and his UMUC studies, Kenny also volunteers at his local elementary school and with the Kadena Special Olympics, and devotes time to serving food to the homeless on Okinawa. He is a distinguished graduate of the Marine Corps Staff Non-Commissioned Officers Academy career course, and he is presently pursuing a bachelor's degree in criminal justice at UMUC with a 3.97 GPA. Kenny is joined here today by several family members, Claudia Saavedra, Karina Saavedra, and Natalie Laguna. And we're happy you could make it up here from Miami to join us. Sorry about the cold weather. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce the 2018 recipient of the General John W. Vesey Jr. Student of the Year Award, Gunnery Sergeant Kenny Saavedra.
Thank you for the kind words, Keith. All right, thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank everybody at UMUC for making possible for me to be here today. And I'm deeply honored for the General Vesey Student Veteran of the Year Award that's been given to me. He was an outstanding man who set the path for active duty service members, their families, veterans, the service, members of the National Guard to follow. Thank you for my mother and father, and thank you for my loving wife and son. I want to share with you a few words with my honor, courage, commitment. I have faced several challenges on my way here, but each one of them has only strengthened me to make me the person who I am today. Hard work, perseverance, learning, training, and sacrifice, and most of all, love of what you are doing is a commitment that enables us to adhere to the goals that we seek. Honor and respect your goals by establishing a foundation and setting it in a kind of way, an achievable way as well. And so, the challenge we face is to recognize between the fears that are serving us and those are holding us back in pursuing our goals. That takes courage. Being courageous isn't about pretending the bad things do not happen, or the risks are real, or are all in our head. It's about choosing lay of vulnerabilities and aligning with something greater than our pride, and risking failure in order to pursue our greatest aspirations. Thank you so much for this award. Thank you for being here. Happy birthday, Marines. Happy Veterans Day. And Stay with us. Thank you very much.
Kenny, thank you. Please be seated. An event like this, as Milo alluded to, only happens with a lot of hard work from behind-the-scenes team of professionals. On behalf of all of those we honor here today, thank you for your efforts in making this a memorable event. Of all the things we do here at UMUC for all of our military-affiliated students, the one of which I am most proud is our Pillars of Strength Scholarship Program, in partnership with the Blewett Foundation and the National Military Family Association. The Pillars of Strength provides full scholarships covering all costs of UMUC education in pursuit of a bachelor's or master's degree to caregivers of service members or veterans who are wounded or injured or fall seriously ill in the line of duty. These caregivers are unsung heroes. They put their lives on hold to care for their loved ones and to assist in their recovery. Tomorrow, November 13th, is National Military Caregiver Appreciation Day, and it is the day on which we will open the application window for the 2019 Pillars of Strength Scholarship Program. If you know of a caregiver to one of our nation's heroes, please tell them about this unparalleled opportunity and encourage them to learn more about it and to apply at umUC.edu/Pillars of Strength. We are also honored to have with us today Richard F. Blewett, CEO of the Blewett Foundation and founder of the Pillars of Strength Scholarship Program. He is a UMUC alumnus and a Navy veteran. Rich, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the retirement of the colors and remain standing after the colors are retired. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. Thank you for attending, whether here in person or watching online via Connecting Vets worldwide live coverage. For those here in person, please join us in the Chesapeake Ballroom, Salon C, across the lobby for a reception featuring special displays of historic patriotic posters from World War I. Happy Veterans Day.
University of Maryland University College is now University of Maryland Global Campus.